One of my favorite children's books is The Six Fools, collected by Zora Neale Hurston. One of the things that Zora Neale Hurston did so wonderfully was to go through the South specifically and collect amazing stories from our ancestors. And she would put them together to give them humanity and purpose and dignity. This is one of those stories adapted by Joyce Carol Thomas and illustrated by Anne Tanksley. The Six Fools, collected by Zora Neale Hurston. A dashing young man courted a pretty young woman. After they had dated a long time, he asked her to marry him. "Yes," she answered sweetly. So, as was the custom, the young man sat down with her mother and father and discussed his intentions. Her parents were very glad, for he was strong and worked hard. He saved his money and therefore provided very well for their daughter and the children they would have. The father said, "Yes, young man, my wife will plan a nice wedding." The mother said, "Daughter, go to the cellar and draw a cold picture of the sparkling cider. Let's celebrate and make merry." The happy daughter took the pitcher and went down to the cellar. She turned the spigot and the refreshing golden cider gushed into the jug. Look at all that cider. While the sparkling cider was running, she started daydreaming, thinking that after she and the young man got married and had a child, what would she name it? She sat and thought, and the bubbling cider ran and ran. The thirsty young man waited patiently for his cool drink. After a long time, the mother said to the father, "What can be keeping our daughter?" So she went down to the cellar to see what was the matter. "What's taking you so long to come back with the apple cider, daughter?" The daughter said, "Mama, I was just thinking, when we get married and have a baby, what will we call it?" The mother knitted her brow. Daughter, that is something to think about." Now they're both distracted. And look at all the cider run. Look at all the names they're thinking of. Dunn, Jillian, Gail, Sandra, David, Elaine. So the mother sat down beside her daughter and began to think too. The bubbling cider was still running. They thought, and after a long time, the father excused himself from the patient young man and went down to see what was the matter. Now here comes Dad. "Wife, what are you doing? Letting all our good cider go to waste?" The father worked hard, saved, and didn't waste his money. "Why, I'll be ruined. Remember, our daughter hasn't even married the young man yet." "Well," said the mother, "we've just been wondering what to name the baby after she and the young man marry and have a child." The father said, "Now, that is something to study about. Why, I never gave it a thought." Now what's going to happen? Now the father is just as distracted and curious. And what's happening while they're just sitting there? All the cider is running. So the father sat down and began to daydream too. He's daydreaming about the wedding and the money he's going to lose, all while sitting in rising cider. Way after a while, the young man got more thirsty and went to see what was holding up his drink. "What are all of you doing sitting down here in a flood of apple cider?" The father said, We're just studying what to name your firstborn after you and our daughter get married and have a baby." "Well," said the young man, "you are the 3 biggest fools that I ever laid eyes on. I'm going traveling for a year, and if I find 3 fools as big as you, I'll come back and we'll get married." Do you think he'll find 3 fools as big as they? Let's see. He traveled and traveled, and way after a while he saw a man leaping up in the air by a bush with some clothes on it. The man just kept jumping up in the air and falling back. What do you think he's doing? "What are you doing?" the young man asked. The jumping man said, "Those are my trousers on the bush. I'm trying to get into them." The young man said, "Well, why don't you take them in your hands and pull them on?" "I never thought of that," said the jumping man. Then he took them in his hands and pulled them on. "Well, that's 1 fool," said the young man, and traveled on. Is that how you put on your pants? Do you try to jump into them? He saw a farmer trying to raise a cow up on the roof of a barn by a rope around her neck. He pulled and pulled, but he could not lift the cow up on the barn. Why on earth is he trying to lift this cow onto the top of the barn? "Just what are you trying to do?" asked the young man. The farmer pointed up to the roof of the barn. "See all that grass growing on top of the barn? I'm trying to pull the cow up there so she can eat." "Why don't you toss it down to her?" asked the young man. "Oh, I never thought of that," said the farmer. "Now that makes 2 fools," the young man said, and traveled on. Oh my goodness. He was trying to pull the cow onto the roof instead of throwing the grass from the roof to the cow. One day, the young man saw a woman rushing in and out of her house, pulling a wheelbarrow. She had placed a wide board on the door, like a gangplank, and kept dashing in and out with the wheelbarrow. Now, what is she doing? The young man said, "What are you moving into that wheelbarrow? I can't see anything in it." "Oh," she said, "I have scoured my kitchen and I'm trying to haul in some sunshine to dry it." He said, "Why don't you open the doors and windows and let the air dry it for you?" "Oh, I never thought of that." Well, said the young man. "I have found 3 folks as foolish as the 3 fools I left, so I might as well go back and get married." Can you believe she was trying to haul in sunshine into her house? It looks like he found his 3 fools. By that time, I left, the author says. It looks like they had their wedding after all. He found his 6 fools. The end. Here is a beautiful picture of Zora Neale Hurston, one of our heroes, our hero of the week and Black author of the week. Again, the title of this book was The 6 Fools. This is the front cover. This is the back cover. This is the spine that tells the book. And now that you've heard the book, you should be able to tell me the who, what, when, where, and why. I hope you enjoyed this story.